Real people having real conversations. Let's go beyond the surface and find the pieces of the past that make people who they truly are. This is the Blueprint Banter. Welcome to the show. I'm Derek Lyons, the host of the Blueprint Banter podcast, and with me today is Terry Cook. He is a businessman, entrepreneur, investor. I think we're going to find out that you probably have a lot of hats that you've either worn or currently wear right now. So thanks for coming on, Terry.
Yeah, no problem. I'm looking forward to it. I enjoy doing stuff like this. I like giving back, helping people out. Hopefully, I can help them chase their dreams and whatever that may be.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice. So that's why I like doing these things. Any way I can help people. I've kind of been doing that my whole life, so I might as well keep doing it. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, when Craig Hunt introduced us and we had that first sit down and we're chatting, I mean, 5 minutes in the conversation, I was like, this is a guy that I need to get to know a little bit more, you know? So, I mean, and the way you guys both honestly talked about some of the people that you've helped and
Yeah.
kind of mentor and do different things,
Mhm.
that's a neat deal. So,
Yeah, you're right. And Craig's a great guy. Craig, he always talks about the sponge, right? Get the sponge. So
yeah.
he picks my mind. We have some great conversations. Craig, if you don't know, he owns Universal Studio, Universal Haircut
Yeah.
place in on 42nd Street, roughly 42nd, over there by Waveland.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah, he's a great guy. We've helped some kids in there, and so it's exciting to watch people grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, connections is what it's all about.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the business world, I mean, obviously the cliche, not what you know, who you know, all that
Yeah.
stuff. But I think when you take the time to actually make those connections and relationships genuine and not just bullshit, surface
Yeah.
level stuff, I think you can really find that there's some power there. What tell me about this vodka company and what connection kind of led you into that and how that came about?
This vodka right here is a crazy thing how this all started. Um, it's called American Premium Vodka. And how this all started was I'm down in Arizona. I'm retired. I was. Um, I retired like about 8 years ago.
Okay.
And I was down there. I playing a lot of golf, hanging out. My little sister, she said, "Hey, you need to meet this guy. He's got a vodka." I said, "I don't want to get in any vodka company. There's a million vodkas out there."
Yeah.
She goes, "No, you got to meet him." I said, "Okay." I said, "I'll meet with him." And so I met with the guy, and it was a story. It wasn't the vodka. It was a story that made me really get excited about getting in this. What we did there is the story behind it was my partner. And we got a couple other investors too in it, but my partner that actually I talked to down there, he goes, "Listen, here's what this is." So he was telling me about it. He's a member at Pat Tillman Post 117. It's a Legion Hall for people, men and women that serve their country. So he's been going there for a long time, and he's trying to figure out why these guys are drinking Russian vodkas or Polish vodka. Why are we not doing something for the men and women that serve our country?
Yeah.
And I said, well, heck. So he said, I'm going to make American Premium Vodka. And so he came up with doing American Premium Vodka. And it so happens my grandpa served in World War II. My uncle was a Vietnam vet. And I'm thinking, this is a great way to give back the men and women that serve their country. And also certain proceeds go back to men and women that serve their country.
Yeah.
And on top of it is it's a corn-based vodka, which is nice because all the farmers in the Midwest.
Yeah.
And on top of it, most people don't know this, is it's gluten-free. Most vodkas, almost 80% of all vodkas are gluten-free.
Yeah.
And so my partner, on top of that, I said, okay, so then I got to know him a little bit more. And I kind of mentioned you earlier before we started the podcast is he had 3 number 1 hits on MTV. They sold 3 million albums. A group called Trickster. He was the drummer for Trickster.
Okay.
So that was kind of, I said, okay, so he knows people out there. We can capitalize on this and try to grow the brand. And that's what we're doing. And we're taking it slow. We're not in a big hurry. And it's been great. We got all the high V's in the Des Moines Metro. We've got a bunch of fairways. We've got a ton of restaurants and bars in Des Moines Metro. We're in Arizona, in Las Vegas right now, in Reno, Nevada.
Well, for anybody out there that loves the greatest country on earth, the United States of America, can I get a hell yeah?
Yeah, hell yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. And I think that, something honestly so simple, right?
Yeah.
But if you actually put the passion and the drive behind it, to make it something that's neat.
And that's kinda why I did it. I mean,
Yeah.
it was me, it was more of the just letting people know, "Hey, this is the time that we all need to come together."
Yeah.
I mean, we're having a hard our country's divided,
Yeah.
and I think we need to come together, and what better way to have some vodka and tell us a few stories. So
Yeah.
that's kinda how it all started.
No kidding. How many I would venture to guess that through the pursuit of getting this brand going and established, I mean, you've probably run into some awesome, incredible people. Is there any like do you have any like top stories maybe of
You
some
know, I
conversations you
got
had?
in January, and I was just fortunate enough, and I tell people every time, I said, "I just been fortunate enough as I grew older." Actually, as I grew up, I realized just do the right thing, be fair and reasonable,
Yeah.
and you'll have a lot of people that will return your calls and talk to you.
Yeah.
And so all my businesses and all the things I've done over the years, I built there's some people you don't even know I met and I played golf with, and we'll
Mhm.
bring that up maybe later. But so I was like, so the first person I reached out, I said, okay, how am we going to grow this brand? Well, I just so happened I know one of the real famous guy that has been in 70 movies, and he has his own bourbon out. Him and some partners do. It's called the Four Branches. His name's Randy Couture. Randy Couture was, he's a Hall of Fame UFC fighter.
Yeah.
I went out to Las Vegas and talked to him had dinner with him, just had a great time. He's a great guy. And so I've known him through wrestling. He wrestled at Oklahoma State when I was at Nebraska.
Oh, that's where that
Yeah.
connection came from.
And he served in the armed forces. So we had a great time. So that was pretty neat because we're looking for a distributor out in Vegas. Then I reached out to another matter of fact, he's fighting in July. I think he's going to be fighting in July. And he's got his own podcast too. He's got about 1 million followers. His name's Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo was Olympic champ wrestler, won 2 UFC belts. He's a Hall of Famer also. He lives in Arizona, so I went and watched him work out, and we talked and we had lunch and we went up. So we've had a couple different conversations. I was trying to bring him on board.
Yeah.
Since he is not involved in any of those things yet. So anyway, so those are so I met some interesting people in a short time that I've done it.
Yeah.
Then I got back to, as soon as I came back here, when I got the high visa fairways, a good friend of mine owns Wild Rose Casinos, Gary Kirk. And so we're in all those Wild Rose casinos.
Yeah.
And another friend of mine owns the one down in Catfish, Ben down in Burlington. He owns a casino down there,
Okay.
Randy Weingard. So
Yeah.
it's kind of neat to be able to go back to some of the people I've known forever, and they return your phone calls
Yeah.
as long as you're doing the right thing and being fair and reasonable, and people will answer the call.
Well, I think if there's anything out of today that I really want people to understand or get from you, or at least hear one nugget that maybe helps them through whatever they're going through right now, is if you get hit in the fucking teeth, like how do you respond, right? And you get knocked down or whatever, and is that failure or is it an unexpected result, like you
There
told
you
me the
go.
last time we met?
Yeah.
So, and I'll let you elaborate a little bit more on that. But that when you said that to me, it hit me,
Yeah.
right? It makes you think. And so if there's anything that, anybody gets out of listening to this, it's that message. So obviously a guy, it's 2024, you were retired and you're no longer, I guess, retired-ish now. But you have all these connections. Let's turn back a few pages and just find out, because obviously you don't just wake up and have those kind of relationships,
No.
right? That doesn't just happen. It comes from a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
Comes from a lot of, probably a lot of no's that you got
Yeah.
along the way, and so on and so forth. But let's go all the way back to childhood. Let's find out how Terry was kind of created. What age were you when you got into wrestling?
That's a good. People don't really bring that up, but actually, I was in second grade. We had a YMCA right around the corner from the house, and back then you had to have your folks with you because I was only 8 years old or
Yeah.
whatever it is, and I used to sneak into the Y all the time because I had two older brothers, and so I tell my brother Tim or something so I can get in the Y
Yeah.
and do things at the Y which you couldn't do at the time, and then I started going to wrestling practice in second grade, um, and a lot of it is and I used to get the shit kicked out of me by my brothers, and you get beat down and you get back up, and you get beat down, you get back
Yeah.
up, you get beat down and you get back up, and you keep doing that, and you're going to grow or you're going to wilt away, and And so that's kind of helped me through my whole life. But going back to early age is when I was, I looked, it's really comes back to what my dad, how it all started. My dad worked his ass off. He was a hard worker. He was doing 12-hour days. And then every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'd go to the races. My dad was a flagman. He's in the Hall of Fame in Algona as
Okay.
a flagman. So when I was young, I didn't know any different. What you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
And people talk, everybody's got a story, right? So, my story is different than others, and there's worse stories and there's better stories. But I grew up poor and I didn't know I was poor because what you don't know, you don't know.
Right. Yep.
I thought it was cool. I got to wear my brother's blue jeans because my mom always
Yeah.
gave us hand me downs. I got to
Right.
wear my brother's blue. I couldn't wait to get my brother's blue jeans after he got done growing out of them because
Yeah.
those are my brothers, and I wear his shirts. And so when I was a young kid, we worked. I mean, it's like, so when like by the time I was 10, I did a paper out, Des Moines Register. Back then, you had to go collect the money. If you didn't collect the money, you never got paid. So there was no credit cards, none of that stuff.
Yeah.
So you had a little white little tags you give to the customer. You bang on doors and get have them pay you. So you're going to all these houses, and so I'd get up every morning at 5:30 and do the paper out. From 10 to 16, I did that, and then when I wasn't doing the paper out, my dad he actually worked for International Harvester, so he worked with all the farmers.
Yeah.
So shit, every summer I was either baling hay, detasseling corn, or walking beans.
This was up in Northwest Iowa, correct?
So Northwest Iowa. So it was so early on. I didn't know any different of what I thought you had to work,
Right.
and so that's what I did, and was at an early age, and then in the meantime, I was wrestling. If I wasn't working, I was wrestling, and I played a little baseball all the way up to about 6th grade, probably. Actually, I wasn't a bad baseball player. My older brother's a pretty good catcher. I was a
Well,
catcher
you're
also.
coordinated.
Yeah,
I've seen you on the
yeah.
golf course.
And
So.
I got good hands. I could, so primarily most of my growing up was just wrestling, and I say that to any kids, even if you're a basketball player or you don't like wrestling, it's good to just go do it for a while.
Yeah.
Just appreciate the things that you can learn from it because it's one-on-one. You're not relying on anybody.
I played basketball. I wrestled because in small town I grew up in, we didn't have it wasn't any organized wrestling basketball until 4th grade. But they had organized in 2nd and 3rd grade, they had organized wrestling. So I wrestled those 2 years. I didn't have the mentality that I had at that time. Like I didn't have that killer instinct.
Sure.
And so, I did fair, but I really wasn't into it. Basketball is more my thing. However, in high school, I was just kind of a spindly, I would have wrestled like probably a $1.19 or something, I would say. And I think I should have, because then I started getting that kind of fire, that feistiness a little bit, and I really wasn't great at basketball. I could shoot, but that's about it. But I agree. I think there's a lot of life lessons. There's a lot of grit you can learn from wrestling. Some of my good friends, I mean, you get out there on the mat and it's just you and another guy. Nobody can help you,
And that's kind of why I took up golf. I mean, when I got done competing, and as I wanted to still compete, and if you look at it really, well, if people don't see it, life is you're competing.
Yeah.
Even though you don't think you're competing, you're competing.
Yeah.
No matter what that is, you're competing at your job. Well, I don't consider competing, but you really are. You want to be the best version of yourself, so you are competing to be the best version of yourself. So whatever that may be, is you got to realize every day you get up, you are competing. What am I going to do today? What am I going to accomplish today? Well, how am I going to get through the day? What are we doing? I mean, it's tough.
But I mean, you have to have that. It has to come from in here. I mean, you have to have that self-motivation to go win something.
You got to have a passion.
Yeah.
Whatever that passion is. I don't care what your passion is.
Did you, I mean, with the wrestling thing, did you realize that like a real young age when you're in that 2nd, 3rd grade that like, hey, I'm pretty good at this? Or was it something that kind of came later?
No, I don't know if I
your
ever.
high school career is impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I was winning a lot of stuff. I never. I mean, I hate losing. So, I mean, so I didn't lose very often. So, I don't know if I thought I was good or not. I just know I wasn't going to lose. So I never really I never really compared myself to anybody else because that's what people get in trouble. You said, God, I want to be like him. Or you
Like
have your idols.
technical.
Gable, I said, be careful who your idol is because you might have to compete against him. So I made sure, like Gable was my idol because I knew I never had to compete against him. But
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, so you look at, I mean, I never, yeah. So it just wasn't matter like I knew I was good or not. I just wanted to win. And what happens is, and then that's how you, no matter what business you're in, is is whether you're playing marbles or playing blackjack or whatever you want to do, is like if you just want to win, the legacy will take care of itself as it goes. I mean, whatever that is. I mean, so I don't look at it as, and that's the one thing we can talk more about that too. About that's why what however you define success, it's like,
Yeah. Let's just dive into it right now.
like, see, so a lot of people get into the things for the wrong reason. Like when I was young, it was never about the money. It was about winning. So even when I had my first job, when I was in the, I was in the fundraising business, working with schools, help raise money, and I was selling chocolates and candy and stuff like that. But it was about getting to the next deal. It wasn't about the money because the money will come, and people can see through that. If you're just trying to, in your industry, even houses, if you're just trying to sell somebody a house, you're probably not the right thing to
Yeah.
do. You
Yeah.
want you want them to tell you how much they love that house, so they want to buy it from you.
Yeah.
And it's not like you want to sell so you can make money. You never want to look at it that way because people see through that over time. So my whole life was about winning. So like I want to get the next account. Like if I
Yeah.
went and called on somebody, I just want to get them. And once I got them, and the money came. And
Right.
that's what that's why I got where I am today is is I always made sure it was never about the money. I could have done some big deals with a lot of guys who got a lot of money in this town.
Yeah.
And I never did anything because I didn't want their money. It wasn't about the
You wanted to go
money.
get that. You wanted to go
Yeah.
earn it. Like
I want to
you wanted
earn
to
it.
feel that pride.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. Hopefully I don't butcher this, but Mike Rowe said something to the effect of, for kids that are graduating high school, going into college, whatever, don't necessarily just follow your passion, but be passionate about whatever you're doing. And to me, like that is where a lot of people get caught up is they think, oh, well, I really love, ballet. So whatever I do in my career needs to be centered around that. And I think people get a little bit twisted and lost in that whole deal. Cause for me, you're exactly right. Or I can relate to that because when I was doing construction and pounding nails and on the labor crew,
Yeah.
I palled around with my boss all the time. I went to lunch with him. I just listened to the phone
Yeah.
calls he was having. And I immediately just thought, hey, he's teaching me kind of how to do this business really. And now I just want to be better than him.
Exactly.
And no disrespect to Phil
No.
Schrage, awesome guy, taught me a ton about
Heck
life,
yes.
being a man,
Yes.
construction, whatever. But it was anybody who's ever taught me anything. I just thought, well, shoot, I can try to be better than that. Then,
Yes. That's what, and that's why I like Craig. Craig
Yeah.
loves his barbers. Craig's, he's got a great business over there. And when he talks about the kid Dion leaving, but
Yeah.
that's what you expect if you're a great
Right.
leader. You want them to go on and be
Yeah.
best version of themselves, whether it's better than you or not. And if you want to
Absolutely.
compare yourself to that person and that at a high standard, that's great. I mean, because that's really what you're trying to do. I mean, people say, "Are you jealous because he did more than you did?" No, I think it's great. I mean, hey,
Yeah.
this guy's made more money than you did. Great. That's not.
Yeah,
That's not.
that's just something that apparently, it was a different channel, different vehicle they had. It just,
Yeah.
but I didn't take myself down that path. So you can't hate somebody else for doing it.
I
Right?
think it's
Like,
great. I mean,
yeah.
I've got a good friend of mine who's worth $1 billion more than me, and I think that's great. But my whole drive and ambition wasn't the money.
Yeah.
Mine was I set a goal. I want to retire at 50, do what I want, when I want, with whoever I want.
Yeah. I love
And I
that.
don't, and I live a pretty simple life. I like to play a little
Yeah.
golf. I have a few American Premium vodkas and go home
Yeah.
and hang out. I live a simple life. And
Yeah.
what I try to do is help people even like you. I mean, I get excited about watching people grow and they pass that torch on to the next person because
Yeah.
whoever you become and you're going to groom somebody and at some point they're going to leave you and it's going to hurt a little bit. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, he's like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And he's going to remember you for the rest of his life.
Yeah. I think that's a powerful, when did you, just to touch on that, because I think that's super powerful is, I mean, when did you kind of decide, hey, I think around 50s when I just want to retire, Because I think there's a lot of people out there probably can feel a little bit lost. Like, am I going to
Yeah,
be stuck in this
100%.
for until I'm
Yeah,
75? Or, at what point in your life or early
yeah,
career did you just say, hey, like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go enjoy the shit out of, from 50 to
yeah.
75 and play golf or whatever.
That's I can't imagine. I could not imagine getting up every day doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. Like, I'm getting a
Yeah.
paycheck this week, getting a paycheck next week.
Yeah.
I can't imagine living my life miserable to the point where you just want to get to retirement. Instead of find the passion, the love that you want to do, and go with your gut. That's why people get stuck. They're scared to make change.
Right.
Change can be good. I got fired from jobs before. And actually, I tell people, don't be scared. That's probably the best thing that ever happened. Change is
Yeah,
good.
I did
And
too.
people get scared of change because they're
Yeah.
so caught up in it. I got to be to work at 8. I get off at 5. So they become robots. And what happens is then they lose the passion and the drive that maybe they have inside that they never took because I can't. I'm making $3,000 a month or 4 grand. I can't lose that. Instead of looking like, what do I want to do with my life? Do I want to
Right. You want to
literally?
actually live.
And I tell my nephews and my nieces and my everybody I'm around, I said, listen, look in the mirror. Can you see yourself doing the next 30 years what you're doing today? If the answer is no, you better start making changes today. Because if not, this is where you're going to be 30 years from now, and you're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
And that's those are things that I try to tell people. If you're not happy, there's no passion, there's no drive, you're not excited about going there,
If you can't feel
feel
something,
something.
like,
You've
yeah.
gotta change. You
Yeah.
gotta change directions. And
I text the guys this morning on the way in. Well, first of all, I text the entire team on the way in. Just said it's a good day to have a good day. Sun
yeah,
was shining. It just for
every
some
day.
reason when I got up this morning, I went to the gym, had a
Yes,
really good workout, and just something about today. Maybe I was excited for this too. I don't even know, but you kind of had that feeling. But it's like shit. If I don't share that, then what if they're having a tough morning or whatever?
exactly.
Maybe like let's put a
Let's
little
just
fire
change.
into them.
Yeah,
Then I text Matt and Sean and I said, I feel good enough to lead a group of 300 men
yeah.
into
Let's
against a
go.
Persian army type
Yeah,
deal, like so it just I love that fire, and you're exactly right. I think if at the end of the day there's no right and wrong. I think a lot of people get hung up on choosing the right career or whatever, but like I think the point that you were making is if you don't feel it, like if it doesn't make you feel some type of way, then there is something out there that probably would, and you
that's
need to
correct.
make a
You got to
change.
find that
Yeah.
change. And the number one thing to do is you kind of hit it early. People don't realize. I'm telling you, I don't know how people live their whole life without exercising, doing something. I don't
Yeah.
give a shit if it's walking around the block.
Right.
If you can't, you don't look and say, God, I want to run 10 miles like this guy does, or I need to do what he's doing. No, you do what you want to do, but do it where you feel good when you get done so you can have a productive day. I try
Yeah.
to exercise at least 4 days a week, and I also play golf, 4 or 5 days a week. So I'm exercising, I'm doing something.
Yeah.
And the biggest they say it's more powerful than endorphins kick in, or more powerful
Yeah.
than morphine. If you exercise just a little bit, and you'll see over time, it'll change your eating habits, it'll change your lifestyle,
Yeah.
and you'll feel better. Just like you said, working out today. When when your best workouts are the workouts where you don't want to go into,
Yep.
then you're pissed off because I feel like shit today. But once you get in, it's like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
here, let's go. And
Yeah.
then once you get there, you get thinking like, holy shit. And that's the difference. People
Yeah.
will feel like shit, don't want to go. That's when you want to go.
Yep.
And it forces you to go. When I feel like shit not going, now I'm pissed.
Let's talk about that a little bit too. I mean, it's sometimes the stuff that sucks, you got to run straight into
You just
it,
got to go to it.
like just right into
That's
it.
why buffaloes, when the storms come, they face the storm. They go into the storm.
Yeah.
So they don't, that's
They
why.
want to see it
They
come.
want to see it coming. They want to, because the storm is going to pass. And when they pass, it's going to go through them. If you
Yeah.
face away from it, you'll go with the storm. You want to go into the storm. And
Golly,
that's
I like that.
and that's
Yeah.
what you want to do. You want to fight it,
Yeah.
and that's because life is tough. This is not.
It can beat
It's
you up.
so hard. Everybody's got ups and downs. They got problems. They got issues. We've all been through them. I've been through so many problems, so many things in my life that you think, holy smokes, how do you end up where he's at? Well, it's just because I choose not to give up. And a lot of people give up. I met a guy the other day. I won't bring his name up. He's going. Just met him yesterday. One of my best friend's brother is dying. He's an alcoholic, and I
Yeah.
went over his house and tried to, work with him a little bit, and he gave up. It's like, it's like,
Yeah, it's tough.
it's just tough to see people just give
Yeah.
up because it's so easy. That's the easy way out.
What the can we if we go back to your high school, was it your junior or senior year when the match happened?
Junior.
Okay. So you and I read the Pin Doctors, I believe was the article that
Mhm.
had on you. It was a really good write up. But how many matches total did you lose in your entire high school
Well,
career?
I'll only say two. I only lost
Yeah.
twice. So my freshman year, I was 30-0, got beaten off state. The reason why, again, I was looking at another guy, Jeff Kerber was, when I grew up, was the greatest high school wrestler ever come out of the state of Iowa at that time. And he was 126-0 in high school. I said, I'm gonna do the same thing him and Gable did. I'm gonna go undefeated all through high school. And I got beat in the finals. I was 30-0, got beat in the finals, and I was devastated. And then
Mhm.
my sophomore year, I got beat by one of the greatest high school wrestlers of all time in the semis. But the kid I beat in districts got second, so I got third. So I've lost twice now. And then my junior, I'm not going to count that as a loss. I got, I won the state finals. They took it away from me. And then
That's like actually like it's
if you
legit
watch it on,
fact
if you
too.
watch
Like
it
if you
on,
watch the video,
you
yeah.
watch the video, I won. Anyway,
Gosh,
then
that's tough.
then my senior, and quite frankly, it kind of goes, you know, it goes through a lot of things my whole life is diversity. I
Yeah.
went through a lot of things, family, friends, and we go into that too. But
Mhm.
um, so my senior year, I got hurt 2 days before districts. I tried to wrestle. They sent me to the hospital. Done. So I only count two losses. And so I had a, and some people say, well, you had a great, there's two ways to look at it. Did you have a great career or did you not? Well, I, I consider myself is one of the best ever that never won a state title, but I still
Yeah.
feel like I was one of the best high school wrestlers to come out of Iowa.
Yeah.
Um, if you just look at my record alone, it's as good as one of the best in
And
high school.
the quality of guys that you're
Beat, yeah.
competing against too at the
Yeah,
time. I mean,
the '80s was probably some of the best wrestlers ever.
yeah.
And then then
So
so
you can't you're I mean
I was not
to
going to allow that to define who I am today.
to people though that don't understand, I mean, still to this day, to become a high school state champ in the state of Iowa in wrestling is, I mean, it's a thing. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
it's a
big thing.
powerful fucking thing. I
Yeah,
had a buddy that one of my best friends in high school, his mom passed away of cancer, and kind of his last promise to her was, "Mom, I'm going to win a state title."
yeah.
And I mean, I still remember like him beating that kid in the finals and like the goosebumps. I'm getting
Oh yeah,
goosebumps right now. Like,
it's
I
pretty
mean,
cool.
it was insane. And so there's a lot of clout there that comes behind it. And to your point, does that define your career? And it doesn't. But when you're in that moment, like if you can go back to your senior year when you basically just physically cannot compete at the thing that you're the best at, I
I was in a
mean,
dark spot.
that had to be dark,
It was the
especially
hardest.
at that age.
It's probably, yeah, that was the worst. That and lose my best friend, probably two darkest moments of my life. Um, Probably the state tournament was a really, really dark moment that, thank God, again, it goes back to, it's like the foundation, the storm was here. I was in the midst of the storm, and thank God I had a big foundation. The concrete cylinder blocks were already down. So
Yeah.
you weren't going to take me away. But it was a dark, very, and all the way I got through it, the only way I got through is because of my background and my work ethic and the hard work, and I wasn't going to allow that to define who I was. And quite frankly, I look back and I hate to say that, it probably made me who I am today.
Yeah. Right.
And I keep saying that it's just chapters. It's just another chapter in your life.
Yeah.
There's a lot of chapters, and you can't allow that chapter to define the whole book. That was just one of the chapters. There's so many chapters, great moments, freaking the worst moment in your life. Like, okay, great. Okay, I got screwed in the state finals. I didn't win the state championship. But at the end of the day, is when I go down, is like, what's going to be on your tombstone?
Right.
Let that's probably more important than anything else anyway.
Yeah.
So is it how are you going to be defined? What's going to be on that tombstone? Is it be you got beat in the finals of the state tournament, or I got screwed in the state finals? Probably. I hope it's not, because if that's the case, I didn't do my job.
Right.
So
Right.
so there's so yeah, so that was a darkest moment probably.
Did you have, I mean, your brothers, or did you have, I mean, was that a time where are you the type of person that had to kind of lean on some people for a little bit to help get you, like, shake you out of it, or was it just like,
No.
fuck it, I'm gonna put my head down and go?
It's just no, I didn't lean out. My mom was she was probably she's the only one. I grew up hard. I mean,
Yeah.
there was
There
no
wasn't
love
any like,
you,
oh, you'll
no
be
love you,
okay.
no none of that. I grew up a hard life. There's none of that in our household. So back in those days, it's totally different. But my mom would be the one, just don't forget who you are. Don't forget who you are. So that kind of got me
Okay.
just get back up and
Just
go
something
again.
simple, like,
Just
yeah.
something simple, like you. Everybody gets, everybody responds differently. Some people
Correct.
need coddled. I was the opposite. I know what I needed to do. I did. My whole thing is I want to make everybody else happy. So I was doing it to make my mom and dad proud of who I am.
Right.
And that's kind of where I am today. It's like my
Yeah.
whole life is driven about it wasn't just I was just trying to make them proud of who I
Yeah.
am.
That's
Maybe
awesome. You,
yeah.
I mean, so then, how early did you commit to Nebraska to wrestle? Was
My
it
just right my senior year, I was gonna go to Iowa. Gable was recruited me. He wasn't gonna give me a full ride. Nebraska did. And Nebraska just got fourth in the country at the time. So I was coming into a good program. And so I went there. Um, and then again, same stuff happened again. I was one of the best in the country. I beat the kid from Iowa in the national tournament, beat him 9-2, Steve Martin. Um,
jeez.
I looked at Gable and that after that match. I said, probably should have taken me. Um, and
Oh
um,
man.
but again, same thing. I mean, I was ranked fourth in the country my junior year. Broke my thumb, had two pins put in. I'm cutting 118. I'm cutting a lot of weight. I'm 18 pounds over 2 days before match time, and it went like that every single week. We'd go in, and I'd have to start 18 pounds, and I'd have 2 days, and then every other 2 days I'd do it again and again and again and again. I
Oh
did it for the
man.
last 2 years of college. I think my body started breaking down. Broke my thumb, had two pins in it. I had to cut the cast off to wrestle the big eights at the nationals. I was cutting a shit ton of weight, and I couldn't even really work out. So I was wrestling with one hand. Then my senior year, same thing. I was undefeated my senior year. Um,
In college.
yeah, my junior and senior, I was like going into the big eights. I lost one match. My senior was the same thing, I think, if I remember right. And then I ruptured my disc in my neck. Went home at Christmas and I blacked out. And I think I was training so hard at the time. I was doing 3 days. We're going hard, and my neck was so fucked up that my doctor here said, "You're done. If you try to wrestle, you're gonna be paralyzed." I said, "I'm wrestling no matter what. It's my senior year. My whole life, I want to be a national champion." And I couldn't even shoot. I couldn't even touch my neck.
Oh man.
And another bad, again, it's just here we go again. It's like, you know, I don't say why me or poor me. It's just
But
freaking what happened.
there had to be a real moment there where it's like, am I gonna get, like, what's coming to me, or like, do I get to have my cake and eat it too ever?
Yeah.
Because you watch these other people, I'm sure you're, in that sport especially. I mean, a lot of these guys that are wrestling for national championships, I mean, you probably saw those guys your whole childhood growing up or
Oh
whatever,
yeah.
right? I mean, you know all
Yeah.
these guys, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
like,
I
geez,
beat
I'm
them. I
better.
beat
Yeah,
some of those
it's like I'm
guys.
better than those
I
guys.
beat them. And
But using that though as fuel in a positive way is just, I mean, because so many people just they dwell on it and it's
always
fucking poor me and
poor
whatever,
me.
right? Like that just it does you no good.
No. And that's the thing. So, then you talk about another dark moment is you're identified by your career. And my whole thing was wrestling. All of a sudden I'm done.
Right.
I was like, holy
Yeah.
shit. Wow. What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
And the only thing I knew, again, it goes back to that foundation. And by the way, it doesn't have to be a foundation as a kid. You can be fucked up as a kid and realize, okay, I need to get a solid base under mine. And you can do it when you're in your
Yeah.
college or when you're 30, 40.
Yeah.
You can be a drug addict and an addict and all these things in your life and whatever, and realize I need to change my life. What
Yeah.
do I need to do? I need to have a good foundation. I need to believe in the Lord. I need to do the right things, look at yourself in the mirror every day. Make sure I'm following certain guidelines,
Yeah.
whatever those may be, to become the next version of yourself or the best version of yourself. So when I got done, I was like, wow, who am I? What? Because I'm telling you, that's what happens with these pro athletes and all these athletes. When they're done, they're
Yeah.
lost. They're
They let that
completely lost.
define them.
And
Yeah.
that happened to me in my second career when I retired. I thought, wow, I'm retired. This is great. Then I was fucking lost again. It's like,
Because
holy shit. I'm defined by my work. I'm defined by stuff that like that ain't right. That shouldn't be right. That's not who I want to be defined by. It's like
Yeah.
so we go back, my wrestling, I was done. Like shit, what do I do? I had to go to work. I was like, I gotta go work, I gotta work because I take my mind off it. And then a couple years later, I lose my best friend. He dies. Car accident. Best friend in high school. He was actually the best man at my wedding. And my teammate, my wrestling teammate in high school. All since we've been kids.
Yeah.
We've been friends for my whole life. He ends up dying in a car accident. And so it just kept freaking going. It's like,
Yeah.
God damn. And then, those are the days where if I didn't have that foundation, I pretty well could have seen myself at the end of the bar telling everybody how tough I had it.
Right.
And we can go to the bar this afternoon. You'll hear all the guys on the corner talking about how bad they had it.
Yep.
Or the poor me situation, and then that's where you get yourself then you get yourself seeing yourself. You become who your friends are.
There's always
Look around.
There's always a chance or an opportunity, no matter what point in life you're at, to your point, 30, 40, 50,
Doesn't
doesn't
make
matter,
sense.
to create that next I'm here moment, right?
Yes.
I mean, is that what you're trying to say basically? Is
I
like
think it's
it
very
doesn't
important.
fucking matter where you're at or what
Yeah.
happens to
You
you.
can change.
There's always an
Always
opportunity
happen.
to go say, hey, now I'm here doing
Yeah.
this, right? Like,
Yeah, and that's where you get. I mean, everybody, not everybody. David Goggin, right? The guy who was a Navy SEAL and
Yeah.
Ranger,
Can't
and I send motivation. I send stuff to different people about
Yeah,
some of the things.
I do too.
But what I do is, I take words of what he says. It's not what he does because I'm not going to go out and run 35 or 40 miles because it's like going to watch a Rocky movie. You're all fired up after the movie and you have nowhere to go.
Correct.
And because there's no dartboard said, here's where I'm aiming at. So you go out of there, you got all these motions, and then the motions go away. Then now you're saying, now what do I do? I gotta go watch Rocky again. Well, you still don't go any further.
Yeah, you have to make it applicable too.
You gotta make a playbook. You gotta follow it and design it for you and follow that because you gotta have discipline. And if you're not having the discipline, you got yourself a problem. And that's why when you're lost when you're young or whatever that may be, like we're just talking about, if you're 30 or 40 years old and say, I'm going to change my life. And that's what Goggin did. He got to 200, almost over 300 some pounds.
Yeah.
He changed his life. And he did it in his 30s or late 20s when he went back.
Fat slobs don't just turn into some of the most intense Navy SEAls ever.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, like what he did in his book Can't Hurt Me. I listened to it
Yeah.
on audio, but
It's a great book.
Yeah.
And it's, so it's so you can change. I mean, start small. Like I said, even if you said, okay, I'm going to start small. Okay, well, let's do this. How about we walk around the block today? Don't have to do more than once. Just one time around the block. Okay, great. So when you get
Yeah.
around the block, what we're gonna do? We're gonna change your eating habits. Now we're gonna stay a little more disciplined. We'll have an apple and some eggs in the morning. Start the day off, and we're gonna go to work. And then you're gonna plan your day. And then when you're done with work, you're gonna okay. What are we gonna do now? You may want to go for another walk around the block. And then maybe it's twice tonight. And then you build it. And then you build a foundation. And then you think, okay, now I'm ready to run a mile. Or maybe it's just, hey, I'm going to start lifting weights now. Or maybe I want to swim. Whatever that is. And then you build around that and you change your habits. And then all it becomes is your habits change. And then it becomes a daily. Then it becomes part of your life.
Yeah.
And it becomes part of your life. It's easy. Like me, I know when I'm making mistakes. Like, okay, I'm hanging out at the bar too much, or I'm playing too much golf, or I'm not spending enough time.
Too much golf, not a thing.
No, it can be.
Okay.
It messes up with your life at home.
Yeah.
So you got to have certain things. You've got to be balanced.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, okay, I'm going to go have 2 or 3 drinks. The guys will go home. Not 2 or 3 and say, oh, screw it, I'm going to have 4 more.
Right.
And then,
Yep.
but you make up the mind before you get there. Okay, here, that's where the discipline sets in. I'm only going to stay here for 1 hour. You look at the clock, 1 hour, you just sleep. And you think, God, I'm having fun. But you know what? You made a choice. You got other things you got to do. You got to get up, go to work the next day. You got to walk around the block. You got to feed the dog. You got to do all these things. So you got to be disciplined. What happens is once you get off that thing, and next thing you know, you spiral out of control.
I'm getting better, but I can definitely admit that I am one that like, hey, and you're having a good time, it's hard to shut it off.
And it's hard to shut it. I'm just as bad as the next guy.
Yeah.
But then you learn from it, right?
Yeah.
If you go out there and you did, and that's why I say, if you're going to hoot with the house, you build a real roost with the roosters. I don't want to hear any complaints tomorrow morning. What's time to get up at 6? We're getting up at 6. Don't sleep in today because we got work to do.
Yeah. Let's go to you get done with the collegiate wrestling and you're getting into the professional world. What is your first, like, you would call it, kind of defining moment in your professional career then at that point? Like, what was that kind of first step where you're like, hey, I'm gonna go crush this?
It was, I don't know if it's a defining moment. It's like, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's like I was working with schools, fundraising, selling cookies and stuff and wrapping paper, and I was making good money at the time, but it's like, I tell people, I just look forward. I said, I'm not going to do this for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And then I started dabbling some other things, but I was still working I was working. The thing is, you want to be an entrepreneur. There's not a day like I need today off.
Yeah.
It's like there wasn't. I was working 16, 18-hour days every day.
Yeah.
I'd cry myself to sleep.
Yeah.
I was working so freaking hard. Because I don't believe in failure, right? I was like, because I've told you before, it's unexpected results. Yeah. And I just knew that I put all how I grew up, and I put it all in the fundraising business, and I'd work just nonstop. It was like, now I got to figure out, this doesn't make sense. If I'm not working, I'm not making money. There's got to be a better mousetrap. If I'm not working today, how am I making money? It's like, I see all these people have all this money and they got 50 or 100 people working for them. Okay. So then I said, okay, I got to duplicate what I'm doing with more people that think like me, which they won't, by the way. Nobody's going to work like you and think like you, and they're going to have their own way of doing it. So that's kind of where, so I was like, okay, I want to pivot. You got to pivot. So I pivot. I never stopped what I was doing because that was my revenue coming in, because I needed a revenue to start my next career. That's where I was working so many hours. And then I pivoted to the next thing, and I realized, okay, I like this. I can do this. So I worked my way out of that other one, started in this other business, and that's where I got into sports advertising company I had, and I started it with another guys. And
how old are you at this point?
That was 2000. So it's about, I was in my 30s.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in my 30s. And then that was when any high school gymnasium or any football field you went in the state of Iowa, we did all the advertising, we did all the video boards, we did everything, Iowa, Nebraska, and Illinois. And when I pivoted, I got people start selling ads for me, because we'd go out and give the video boards and all that stuff. We'd go out and sell the advertising for them.
Yeah.
So I got guys, and then next thing I know is,
so you're not only selling the actual equipment to the schools, but then we're also
actually giving it to them
for the advert.
We'd give it to them, and then we'd sell the ads, get our money back, and then we'd split the profit with them.
Oh,
so they had no money, so we'd buy it for them.
Yeah.
And it was a great deal. And so we designed. Then my 2 guys are old retired guys. It was me, and I brought a good friend of mine in. Johnny Galloway was my partner. Then he became my partner. And it was weird because, again, it goes back to building relationships. Like, I created something like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I was having all these people working for me. It's like, how in the hell did Terry cook? I mean,
Right.
I'm the worst student here. I mean, I had guys like Ben Pettit he's our CEO. He had a name. I don't know. He had a business card. I don't know how to, he said CFO or control. I don't know what, I don't have titles. I just get to go to work. So I don't know. He had a card. He had a name on. What's that mean? So,
Yeah.
So I don't believe in titles. I get in and go. And
Right. I'm the same way.
So I don't, I'll do whatever you want me to do. So anyway, so I hired people smarter than me. And that's what people,
Fucking
that's
hell.
where the ego
Yeah.
gets in the way of people. Like, everybody was smarter than me. and
Yeah.
they all thought it was funny, but I was the last one laughing because I was retired and sold it for a lot of money, and all these guys were everyone was smarter than me.
There's yeah, I mean that's such a powerful thing too. Even in, I mean, shit with Showtime Homes, right? Like, I mean, people, Sean and I were running an exterior restoration company. We kind of transitioned and pivoted, if you will, into the home building side. But I mean, we had the blueprint. Like, with the blueprint, we knew was anything that happens, like, we'll figure out a way we're not going to take a loss. Like,
Yeah.
not take a loss financially, because that happens in business all the
Oh,
time on
yeah.
certain things. But we're not going to face failure. Like, to
Yeah.
your point, that means you're done, right?
Yeah.
So let's define that actually for everybody right now. Is failure, in your words, is when you're no longer competing, you're done.
Failure is a deal where you honestly you quit. I don't believe in failure. I believe in
Yeah.
unexpected results.
So I mean, if something doesn't go right with this
It's just-
move, that's
it's
just, it's unexpected results.
result.
Yeah.
And you pivot and you go to
Yeah.
the next thing. You got beat down. You didn't lose.
But if you're still fighting,
you're
you
still
didn't
fighting.
fail.
You didn't fail.
Yeah.
Failure is
So-
when you don't get back up.
Yeah.
And that's
I like that.
and when that happens is when I'm dead. That's when I
Right.
realize I can't get out of the coffin. Although I tell people put a pitchfork in there or a shovel because I might come back out of there.
Yeah, no kidding,
so-
right? Try to keep me down.
yeah.
But, and that's, so I mean, when we hired Matt Buman, that does all the GC work, lining up subs and vendors and everything. It's like, there's some people like, you guys are you're gonna have a home building company, and it's like, well, yeah, like, we just hired the best guy in the entire fucking
Yeah.
metro that knows how to organize builds.
That's what you need.
We just hired, in my opinion, one of the best young designers in the metro to help with design and facades and everything else. And that's
You
that's
got to
what
know
you
where
do
your
is-
weaknesses are.
Yeah,
And your
we didn't
weaknesses
have
are
them.
you bring up the strongest person in your
Yeah.
weakness, knowing that this is what I'm not very good at. And not that you have to be good at it, you just hire somebody that is good at it.
Mhm.
Say, listen, I know where my weaknesses are. Now you can say, well, if it's your weakness, why don't you go into that and make it your strong point?
That takes
Well,
mental energy, though.
that takes energy that I don't want. I want to be passionate about what I know I'm good at. I love talking to people. I like being around people, and I want to be interactive. I don't want to sit behind a computer. Matter of fact, when I was working when I had the company, Ben Pettit, he was our accountant, CPA guy,
Yeah.
and I forgot my password to get on my computer. I didn't want to sit down long enough to turn my computer
Yeah.
on. Yeah, I knew if I was sitting there, I wasn't making making money
Yeah.
and talking to people.
Right.
If I'm sitting here, I know I'm not winning because I got to go out and see people in order to create more revenue coming in for the company.
Yeah.
So if I was sitting there, I knew I wasn't working. A lot of people think, some people think they're working when they're really not.
Yeah.
And they think, well, I'm here working on the computer. I'm doing this and that. I was like, listen, I'm sitting there thinking, well, how about this? How about you work from 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or 6 to 5 and do all that and do your computer work at home at night? Because a lot of that stuff doesn't need to be done. I mean, if you got to return emails and faxes or emails and what have you, you can do that from 7 o'clock until 10 or 11 o'clock at night. I'm busy. I got to turn all these emails. What are they?
They don't need to be replied to right now.
No, there's no value there unless it's immediate reaction needs to be done. Those are things you can do at night when you put the kids down to bed and work until midnight.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really want to be a true entrepreneur, those are things that you got to do when you're not, well, I'm busy. I got to do. No, you're not busy. You want to think you're busy. And that's the difference. And that's what people get lost in. It's like, what is this doing for me to generate
Yep.
revenue? And that's why Ian Musk says, I would have loved to be with Elon Musk for 1 week, just 1 month. I don't care how long he wants to be with. I'd love to sleep on the floor with him. I want to hurt. If pain, you embrace pain.
Yeah.
Pain is a good thing. You embrace it because that means you're uncomfortable. When you're uncomfortable is when you grow. If you don't wake up like it hurts, like you wake up and you're like, I just worked 18 hours yesterday and I feel like shit. That means you grew, and that's what you want. You want to hurt.
Yeah.
Because if you're not doing that means you're comfortable again. You got to get uncomfortable. In order to get uncomfortable, you got to do things you don't want to do. And that might be work late hours. It might be the things you don't want to do. And you wake up and think, oh, fuck, that was great yesterday. I grew. You know when you're growing.
Yeah.
You can tell by you can tell if you're not putting stuff in the hopper and you got 30 new things going on.
We talked a couple years ago when things got really shitty with Showtime. Like, it was in that year, like that sophomore year slump, if you want to call it that way.
Oh yeah.
And it got to the point
We've all
where
been there.
we talked about in our four walls all the time of we would go do something that would be extremely hard. I mean, to keep things going for a while, Service Master by Rice,
Yeah.
big, mitigation company.
Yeah.
They would call us to go, like, if there's a big fire or something, we would
Sure.
go board things up and just make sure everything was tidied up.
Yeah.
Like, you're sitting there smelling smoke, and I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
just the least,
Oh, yeah.
sexy work that there ever is.
Yeah.
But like, that's
That's
how we
okay.
were turning some money for a
Perfect.
while. And it was, I'll never forget it. Right after we did some of the, we had to get up on this like 2.5-story building, and I hate heights.
Sure.
Funny enough, being in the roofing world, but
Yeah.
I do. And the very next day, I got a phone call from a project that I had been working on for over 8 months, and said, "Hey, for some reason, like, people moved in and out of positions, and we lost your number, but I just want to let you know we still need that work done in Independence." And it was one of the biggest jobs I had sold to that point.
Yeah.
It was the next fucking day that I heard this, that I saw this voicemail. And I immediately, like, getting goosebumps again. I immediately told Sean, I was like, that is proof that whenever you do something hard or that sucks, that you don't want to do it, that something good's going to happen.
Something's going to happen.
Like, that one was an actual scenario,
Yeah.
and it's not always like that, but it just is. Like, if you do hard shit that sucks, you will get rewarded.
Hell yeah. The thing about it, the other part I want to add to that is the other I see all the time, even let's just say real estate agent.
Yeah.
Oh, I think Terry's going to buy this house. And all they do is think about, well, yeah, I got Terry here. Terry here is going to buy, and I'm going to make all this money. But instead of going out and get 50 more Terrys, they sit there and have that one. I'm waiting for him to make a decision. Instead of wait, that broke the wagon wheels. Too much weight. We got to go out and get more Terrys. We need 50 Terrys.
Right.
So one of them closes.
Yeah.
And so they sit around like, we're working I'm going to keep working this guy.
Every salesman sells the same deal 6 times.
Yeah.
Oh, I think he's interested.
he's
They
interested.
sell. That's the first time. Then,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like you need to keep growing that hopper. And I did a friend of mine, I met with his real estate agents, and I talked to him. I said, listen, guys, here's what you need to do. You need to go to every funeral. You need to go to every wedding. You need to spend bar time. You may not like it. You need to go to the bar. You don't have to drink. You need to go out and be around people all the time. Go to the grocery store. Walk the aisles. You might bump into somebody you haven't seen in 20 years. Hey, what are you doing? Hey, here's my card.
Yeah.
I'd love to. I want to go see people. Go walk.
Take meetings. You don't even know if you're going to benefit
Don't
from
even know. It
directly.
doesn't matter.
Sean, I mean, my business partner and I literally met getting coffee. We didn't even know if our 2 industries at the time where he was working were even going to mesh.
Didn't even know until it happened.
But he knew people that I knew and whatever, and so we got connected. I mean, yeah, that's how shit works.
You just got to go out and keep talking to people. Tell the story. Go out and tell the story.
Well,
passion.
So let's flip to when you got out of that sign business then, and so that was when you retired. Then you're around 50 when you got out of that.
50.
Let's talk about. I want to talk specifically about the game of golf, just because I mean you're a stick. You are a stick. I did some Googling yesterday, and see some of your amateurs that you're in. And when did you? So like after the wrestling thing, because I'm guessing you didn't golf a whole lot, especially if you guys didn't have a lot of money growing up.
I've got no money.
I mean, I didn't either. So like I wasn't at the country club.
Willow Creek. I started.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where honestly
blue jean shorts and cut off. I had no shirt on, blue jean shorts and black top tennis shoes. How I started.
Oh yeah, that's where I took my son for the first time.
I just wanted to get some sun. That's all I was doing.
Yeah.
Then the bug got me.
How old are you then?
I was just probably late 20s.
Okay.
Early 30, and I don't know. Did I tell you that story about when we talked last time? It's like
no.
So I went out there, and I got lucky. The pro out there, teaching pro was Ken Shaw, and Kenny played on tour. He played, and he loved me because he actually is from Waterloo, and he wrestled growing up, and he played in 7 PGAs, 2 US Opens, and I'm out there, and I've been through again. I went out there for the tan, but I was a young kid yet,
right?
And then I, again, I started liking it, and then I started seeing progress and getting better and better. And then I said, I'm going to start trying to play in some of these tournaments. And, but I had no money. But I could go play Fort Dodge or Carroll, their country clubs. I didn't know what a country club, I didn't know, country club shit. Right. I get to go play country club for $45. I get to play 2 rounds for sure, and maybe 3 if I make the cut.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, shit, this is the best deal since sliced bread. I get to go to Carroll, I'll play at country club, and if I play good, and you
get more golf,
and if I make a flight, I get my money back. So this is the greatest thing in the world. Back then, I'd hopefully I catch a flight. Like, God, if I shot like 70, 80, 81, I'm 161. If I just play good, I win that flight. I win $100. Cost me 45 to get in. I win
Yeah.
100. I get to play for free. This is the greatest thing in the world. So then I started playing those, and I said, okay, I can start now. I can win my flights, and then then I said, now I'm thinking, well, shit, I started to get pretty good. I said, if I could just make the championship flight, just make it, I get my money back because they used to pay all the way back if you made the cut. Thinking, shit, this is great. So then I said, I'm gonna work real hard at it. And then I got to start making championship cuts, and I'm thinking, well, if I really work hard at it, I can win. And now is the point where I just want to win. And
Yeah.
but when I originally did it, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna take this seriously. My whole life has been intense, and I don't want to take this serious. And I said, promise yourself you won't do that. Why?
It's in your
It's
fucking DNA.
I'm
Yeah.
fucked. So then I got to be real good, and then I was ranked 40th in the world. I don't know if you knew that.
I did
Top
not
50
see that
over
stuff.
55 and older.
Yeah.
I was ranked 40th in the world at one time. Then I had some issues, health issues.
I did see that you were in the running for top senior player in Iowa.
Yeah,
though.
I've been runner up a couple times there. I won a bunch of events. I probably won 15, 17 times,
Yeah.
somewhere in that area. Anyway, so I just want to be. So then I said, God, I could be the number one in the world. Well, what happened is once I went to try to do that, I kind of started progressing the wrong way because I was trying too hard instead of just playing. Yeah. And that's what happened. I started, okay, just work a little harder. Well, my definition of work is, these guys that play golf, most of them don't work that hard. They think they do. Trust me, they don't. I mean, my time in golf, there are probably very few players, whether tour players or not, work harder than I do. And I don't even work that hard.
Right.
I mean, if I really wanted to, I'd probably put 10 hours a day doing it, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit
Right.
hole. And so then, I met a lot of great players. You probably, I played with some of the best in the world. I played with Zach Johnson probably, I don't know how many times, a ton of times with him. When he was at Drake, his coach was one of my best friends. They played Echo Valley. He's played a lot with Zach Johnson, Ben Pettit. Benny was in the all-century team for Missouri Valley. Benny played on the Canadian Tour, won, played
Really?
a lot of
And
golf.
then he came to work with you?
Yeah, he worked for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to hire him someday. And sure as shit we did. And he's still there. Then, I got to play with, I played a lot, not a lot. I played with Fuzzy Zeller a few times.
Okay.
I played with Michael Jordan.
What was that
Yeah.
like?
Well, that was, I've been waiting for that game for a while. I had some guys down in Jupiter, West Palm, and I used to gamble. I like to gamble and play.
Yeah.
And I've been waiting for the call. I was down there, and they said, I think the game's on tomorrow. We're going to get you in the game. And, well, he called me the night about midnight, said, you're on tomorrow. We're going to be there at 8. Well, the banks don't open at 8. So I'm sitting there thinking, guy, I said, I'm going to be there, but there's I'm going to need some.
How the hell am I supposed to bring cash?
I was, it's like Lee Trevino playing for, $5. He has no money in his pocket. It's like shit. I said, hey, you got to borrow me money if this goes down. Or I lose a shit ton of money. And I felt uncomfortable because I don't want to ask somebody for money if I lose
kind of guy.
10,000 or whatever the number is.
Which, I mean, you're playing with one of the most prolific fucking gamblers of all time. Michael Jordan.
So, and if you play with Jordan, you play 36 holes, otherwise you don't play. And so it was a big game. I played with another guy. He was a hockey player, played the NHL. He was making a ton of money. I think he's making about $10 million a year. He's a good hockey player. Right? He played for Rangers or somebody. And so, you meet a lot of great people. And
did you play well?
Oh yeah, I beat him. Everybody said I'd be nervous. Like Michael Jordan doesn't. I'm not intimidated.
Well, first of all, you're a wrestler.
I'm a wrestler. You ain't gonna intimidate me.
Right.
It's like, oh, you won't break 80. It's like, are you shitting me? I ain't intimidated by nobody. I don't give a shit who it is.
I noticed that, by the way. You have a different level of confidence about you.
Yeah.
I think of almost anybody, and I haven't been around you a ton, Terry, but golfing with you on Tuesday, there was 2 moments, and one of them was on Vail. I believe it was you go through the houses is number 4, right?
Yeah.
Or number 3. That
Four,
par 4 dogleg left.
that'd be 4.
That's 4. So then 5's the par 3.
Yeah.
So 6 coming back. I went right into the trees. You were
Yeah.
up left rough. You had a shot that you pulled like a hybrid on, I think.
Yeah.
It was a really like low sitting lie.
Yeah.
You flushed the shit out of it. You're a
Yeah.
little bit short of the green. You get up on the green and you had like a 15 to 18 footer, I
Yeah.
want to say. And I was getting ready to line my putt up, and you're like, you just kind of called me off. You're like, hold on, I'm just gonna make this real quick. And I seriously, in my head, I'm thinking, the fuck you are. I mean, that's not an easy
Yeah.
putt. It's like 18
No.
footer. We got cottonwoods falling all
Yeah,
over the place.
I know.
And you just walked up, and there was no hesitation. It wasn't like a cocky or an arrogance thing. You just walked up and made the putt.
Yeah.
And I was like, who the fuck is this guy? You know?
Yeah,
I mean-
that's kind of way I thought. I knew I was going to make it. I was like, this, okay, because I wasn't grinding all day. So I
Yeah.
said, I'm going to grind on this one for you.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'm going to show you I'm going to make this for you.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And you know, mine's powerful. But a lot of it's based off of how I prepare my and then that's why, you know, the last year I've been really working hard on my workouts, trying to get tougher because over the years I feel like I've got a little weaker mentally. So I'm building my mind stronger. In order to do that, you got to work a little harder because I can see myself getting a little softer over the last few years.
Yeah.
Because it's you know, I mean, every day you know, life is a freaking, it's tough. It's a battle every day. There's somebody's got an issue or
Yeah.
I hate problems. Give me the solutions.
Correct.
I hate
Yeah.
somebody coming to my
Solution-minded.
office and said, you know, when somebody comes and says, you got a problem. Well, how about we come up with a solution? When somebody
Yeah.
says a problem, I like, get away. I don't need more problems. Let's come up with solutions. Hey, boss, or you don't even call me boss. Hey, here we got a
Yeah.
situation. I've got a way we can fix it.
Well,
Great.
Kaylee just mentioned that yesterday. She's like, one of the things I like working at Showtime Homes is that, you know, when I propose ideas or things, I'm not scared that it's going to just get shot down or whatever.
No.
But she said, like, as you know, or when we were talking about it, I was like, well, as long as you explain your idea or why you think it's going to work,
Yeah.
and there's an explanation, a plan, or a
Perfect.
blueprint behind
Yeah.
it, then I'll say yes
Yeah.
to that all day. Like, I don't like to
No.
micromanage. I'd rather do the opposite. You know,
And that was, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a hard, that's hard because we talk about change. People are afraid to change. And that was one of my weaknesses. And I got out of my comfort zone. We're talking about comfort zone.
yeah.
And once you get out of your comfort zone, I was all in. I mean, we bought a strip mall out there for
And Altoona.
$4.5 million or whatever it was, 4 million or something.
Is that what John?
And I was like, I had no money. Like this is, I'm
Like,
in.
what am I
It's-
doing?
And it goes back to being uncomfortable. It's like every time we try to do changes in my business, Johnny was the opposite. Johnny was more aggressive, and I look back, that was the best. He was the best partner for me to grow because he thought bigger than what I was thinking. Because I
Right.
came up in a conservative family, I was busted. I didn't want to lose anything. Instead of looking at the opposite, I was like, how do we grow this? Well, we need to raise another. We need to go borrow $1 million. We can grow the company to the next level. And it's like, okay, but I would have
Yeah.
never done that because I was scared of the comfort, and you got to be uncomfortable, get comfortable. You must get uncomfortable. And so when somebody brings an idea or a thought, and
Yeah.
and they said, let's do this, I was always nervous. But if they truly, if I believed in that person,
Right.
let's do it.
Yeah.
And then you might have to change courses. You might say, okay, well, we can't just keep piling money in this if it ain't working. But if we're
Right.
seeing results, okay, why we're seeing results, maybe we need to pivot. But you can't be, you know, you got to think, you can't do it the same way because everybody else did it that way.
Correct.
Just like us going up against Tito's. Well, you're going up against Tito's.
We're doing a different. They're not the same thing as
They're
us.
not the same thing as me. I'm telling a different story. And the thing is, I don't want to compare myself to Tito's. I'm building my own brand, and they just happen to be another company out there I'm competing against.
I can tell you like straight up from my experience. I mean, I enjoy Tito's. Like,
Yeah, it's a great vodka.
When I drink a mixed drink
Yeah.
with vodka, I will tend to use Tito's.
Yeah.
I have zero emotional connection to Tito's.
No, exactly.
I mean, tomorrow, well,
You'll be
actually,
having that.
starting fucking today,
Yeah.
it's this.
yeah,
you know?
you'll drink that.
And because there's a story behind
There's a
it. Like,
story.
if you have an emotional connection to
Exactly.
a product that you're gonna
Yeah.
use, then yeah.
And you got to get, so when somebody comes with a new idea, a new way to doing things, different, I think it's great. Let's look at it. You run with that. you run with that and come back and give a report what you're seeing the results, and if it makes sense, to say, I love this, let's run harder with it, and then you run.
Do you think there's a lot of people out there that are just scared that whatever decision they end up pulling the trigger on or making, that it's just going to be the wrong decision? Like, do you think there's a lot of fear of being wrong?
Well, that's
like in general. Not that it was necessarily
again, I don't see that's the thing is like my one of our guys are off that control their he's the bean counter guy.
Yeah, yep.
I never thought that, like, if I went over the bridge, I already burnt that bridge. I
Right.
can't go back.
Right.
So now I'm on this side of the on the other side. We're gonna have to frickin' navigate to get through this fucking thing.
Yeah.
We're here fighting now. So it's like I never looked at it as like I never looked at it like the fear of what you're talking about, the fear. I never looked at it that way. It
See,
was like
that's
if you look at it that way, you'll never do it.
I think you've already lost.
You
Yeah.
lost.
That's how I just didn't know if I was like a psycho or not, because I mean, a lot of times when we talk about moves, it's, hey, if we obviously you got to talk about it. You
Yeah.
can't just willy nilly
No.
do
No.
shit. But I mean, we talk about it, and if there's enough reasons, if we try to kill the deal 7 times and can, or whatever, people say, but if we feel good enough about it, the decision's already made. Now we're done thinking about that
executing.
decision.
We're executing.
Exactly. It's
Now
the
we're
actions
executing.
that follow up that decision
Yeah.
that make it successful or not, right?
And if you lose a little money on the deal, you learn a lesson.
Every
Sometimes
education
that
costs money.
happens.
Yeah. I
Some,
mean, we got our asses kicked on the first house we
oh,
built.
I've been
It
been
was-
beat up so many times, and it's just in you try to eliminate your weaknesses. I mean, okay, we learned. The only way you're going to learn is from your mistakes, and you try to minimize your mistakes by getting as much information as possible, so you eliminate your mistakes to minimal, so you can pivot before it's too late. So wait a second, we need to pivot. And the thing is in your situation, like I look at all these houses being built,
Mhm.
is you learn from all your competitors, and don't be afraid to change something that they said, oh, we got to do it the way they're doing it because
Right.
they're selling a lot of houses. Well, why are they selling a lot of houses? Is it the house? Is it the people that are selling for them? Is it there's something in the house that maybe you bring a couple your clients with you to go through that house, what they like, and then you bring another couple through that same house, what they like, and you find out they all like the certain thing. Well, maybe that's what you put in your next house because they're going to buy it. But you gotta gather the information, and unless you're walking through other people's homes with other clients, you ain't gonna be able to figure out what everybody wants. You think you know
Right.
because they're our clients, and then all of a sudden this client says they want this, and then this client says they want that, and then what happens is everybody gets confused. Then you don't. Then you're fucked because you only got
You try
one
to
person
chase,
likes
yeah.
change it for that person, and that's where people get in trouble. They're like, oh, everybody wants this. Well, who's everybody? Well,
Right.
that might not be
Just
everybody.
because you had 3
Yeah, I know.
experiences,
3
like, you think
experiences.
that's how everybody fucking
and that's
yeah,
not me.
yeah.
The other 90 might want the other thing that everybody likes. So you gather all your knowledge
Well, and
about
shiny object syndrome can kill you too.
Yeah.
If you're constantly trying to chase the new fad or whatever.
no, you don't want to do that. If I was in your situation, I'm going to go look and see how the house is being built and why they're buying these particular houses and what's in them that they like, and then build a couple yourself, get the results, and then put your own TLC in it, the way you think, or not the way you think. Bring people in and say, what would you do differently? What would you
Yeah.
do differently? And then gather a bunch of knowledge and have your own little thing. And then all of a sudden you created something bigger than the next person that actually started it.
What
Your
attracted
competitor.
me to the construction game back in 2018 when I got hired as my first like job in the sales and business side of construction, what attracted me to the game the most was the way, not how much business people were doing, not how many dollars in sales, but it was the way in which they conducted the business. It was so crude that like all you ever heard was people like, oh, nobody calls me back. The construction sites were a fucking mess the whole time. It was chaotic. That is what I became obsessed with. It wasn't,
Your
wasn't
customer service so bad in the construction
Yeah.
industry.
Oh,
It's the worst.
and it's all just effort things.
It's effort.
fucking
They're
when
lazy.
you walk from the house to the truck, pick up some trash on your way and throw it in the dumpster.
Yeah,
Like,
and people watch you do that, they're going to maybe do
Yeah,
it. And by the
exactly.
way, if somebody calls you and you know it's a problem, answer the fucking phone.
right. Yeah.
And hit it head on.
The buffalo
People,
into
they
the
hide
storm.
from it. It's like, I don't. Oh, it's going to be a bad call. Don't take it, embrace it.
I mean-
and some people that you work with, You realize I'll never want to work with them again, but you get through the storm and you realize that, you know what, it's over with. You know what, you did everything you possibly could. If you really
Yep.
believe that, and they still not happy, they're just not happy people.
Imagine the game of golf thinking you're going to hit the perfect shot every time.
Yeah.
That you're never going to end up in the rough. That
Yeah.
you're never going to end
You're
up
gonna hit
behind a
bad
tree.
shots.
Like, I mean,
You're
that
gonna-
9-iron that you hit coming down Vale, we had a little opening above the trees.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna hit a 9. I'm gonna have to hit the hell out of it, but I'm gonna hit a 9, and you end up pin high, 12 feet.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that was a less than ideal scenario though.
Exactly.
And you face it
Yes,
head on,
head on.
buffalo into the storm.
Don't hide from somebody calling you.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're the ones that you may not ever want to do business with again, but get through it. You realize, okay, he's not my customer,
Yeah.
and then you start finding out who your customers really want to be.
They're not going to get less mad.
No,
just because
exactly.
you don't talk to them. You know.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, is some of your best deals are the ones you didn't do.
Yeah.
And you might have a customer that you know
Yeah.
that
Oh, yeah.
that you realize, I don't want to work with this guy. He's going to sue us anyway or drop us, and this is a bad situation. And you're, instead of thinking about the money, think about, you know what? I don't want to do this deal, guys. I don't. It's not worth it to have somebody like him work.
Right.
Just walk away from him. Don't
Yeah.
think about the money. If you think about the money, you're going to end up having a problem.
Well, I mean, that very first house we built that we lost miserably.
Hell
on,
yeah.
We still paid the realtors that were
Yes.
involved. Every one of our subs got
It
paid.
hurts.
And there's a lot, but there's a lot of good. I mean, the
You
realtor
learned a
that
lot.
represented them, like, respects us to this day. I could call him right now,
Right now.
if I needed something, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of merit to that. And
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, on the home building side, not to go too far down that rabbit hole, but we're focused on more of the entire experience. When you're going through the design process, how does that
Stressful.
look? And yeah, it's very
It's
stressful.
very stressful
A lot
for
of decisions
everybody.
to be made, and
And you
Yeah.
got to have a good group of people that work
Yeah.
with you, that can read the room and figure out, that make sure you're not going to make everybody happy, number one. And that's
well,
the
and
hardest
we're
thing.
not perfect,
And
we're not. But
Nobody is. And the thing is, that's the hardest part in any industry, is keeping everybody happy. You got a husband and wife, and all of a sudden somebody's making most of the decisions. The other one's pissed off because they're not making the decision. And then you end up being the bad guy. At the end of the day is as long as you believe in your heart
Yeah.
and that you're doing the right thing, and you build a freaking beautiful home, and they're just unhappy people, and you can walk away and turn your back. And you know what? You'd be amazed. Call them back every 3 months. How you like it? Even though they're pissed when they
Yeah.
quit, they'll forget about that and
Right.
realize these guys were stand-up people. Even though we had disagreements, I would love to
Right.
have them build my second house. You realize every customer you have, did I tell you that last time?
Mm-mm.
Every customer you have is probably worth, they're going to build every 7 years, probably worth $5 to $10 million to you. That customer is a $5 million customer.
Yeah.
They're going to build 10 houses. Everybody lose every 7 years. So you get a 25-year-old kid, they're probably going to lose 6 or 7 times through their life. That's a $3 to $5 million customer.
Just
I
as
want to
the
take
sod
care of
goes in on their house, that deal ain't done.
that. Ain't done.
Yeah,
And
right.
you follow back up, even if they hate you. Hey, Billy, this is Terry. I said, you know what? I love you. I know we had disagreements, but are you happy with the home?
Right.
You make him feel like, oh, that's fine, Terry. Everything's fine. Thanks. No problem. I just want to follow up. Is there anything I can do? I'll be there for you. No problem. Call him back 3 months later, do the same thing. Next thing you know, you build a relationship with them, and it might be something different. You might be going to dinner with them at some point. It's like, you know what?
Right.
That was just one experience, and you build a relationship with them. Next thing you know, hey, my daughter needs to build a house.
Yeah.
No problem. Can you help my daughter find a house? No problem.
That's a lesson to anybody out there. I don't care
Anybody.
what industry you're in.
Anybody.
Any
Any one of them.
The relationships are so valuable.
So
for
valuable.
sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, last but not least, this vodka, if I want to go buy it today in the Des Moines metro area, at least, you said all high V's in
Look,
this.
all the high V's in Des Moines Metro, most of the fairways,
Okay.
in a ton of bars, Tom Baldwin's bars, Wellman's.
Okay.
Anna Dolce, the country bar he owns, but all the 1908 drought houses,
Okay.
they're in all those. So we're if they're not in that bar or restaurant, ask for it and
Okay.
tell them that you'd like to bring it in, because
Yeah.
they will. We're like I said, we're through the state, so we are available for anywhere, and it's less expensive it's called American Premium Vodka. We give back to the men and women that serve our country. So
awesome.
so it's a great product, and I hope you guys support the men and women that serve our country.
Amen to that.
Yeah,
That was a hell of a podcast, Terry.
that was fun.